How's that? Better? Okay. Good morning. I'm Barb Hefner, a member of the Parish Committee. We're glad that you're here online or in person in our beautiful sanctuary. It's not as hot as you might expect. It's pretty pleasant here, actually, so far. A special welcome to visitors. We hope that you'll stay with us after the service to socialize a bit. I hear there will be cookies, homemade cookies, after the annual meeting. Our mission is to build community, search for meaning, deepen our spirituality, and to make a better world. To learn more about First Parish or Unitarian Universalism, you can check out uuwayland.org, or you can contact Kate Holland, who's our Director of Lifespan Education and Engagement. Please also reach out to a member of the Parish Committee or to Reverend Stephanie if you have questions or ideas about First Parish. A big thanks to all the participants in our service today, whose names are in the order of service. To keep us all safe, we ask that you remain masked in the sanctuary and indoors in general. Those of us who unmasked to make announcements or to speak have tested negative this morning. Please join me now to greet your fellow congregants here in the building, or to wave at the camera for those folks who are at home. And now I'm putting on my other hat as one of the co-captains of the yard sale, which is June 4th, 9:30 to 1, a Saturday. My fellow co-captains are Linda Collins, and more recently, Suzanne Tiberi has joined us in getting organized. We have about 33 volunteers so far in various capacities. We have 25 tables. That includes folks who are selling their own items, as well as a few organizations or projects like the Uganda Project and Fair Trade Products who are selling items that day. We have 3 community departments: jewelry. These items will be available on that Saturday. Books and antiques, and you can drop those types of items off the week leading up to the sale. So Tuesday through Thursday, we'll be doing setup for those 3 areas. Over these, as we were trying to decide whether to tackle this, I thought a lot about why we've loved Rummage so over the years, and certainly a big part of it is the camaraderie and the fun of working together to set up. Certainly, it's nice that we make a little money for First Parish, but I was also reminded of one of the first Rummage sale meetings that I attended with Kathy Schmidt, where she talked about Rummage ministry, the fact that a lot of people who come to these sales really need the stuff. It's not just a luxury item for them, and they're getting it at such a reasonable price. So anyway, that's another, I think, heartwarming aspect. And the other thing, for those of us who are crazed environmentalists, the reuse aspect is also very important. I would ask, too, for your patience. This will not be the finely oiled machine that you've come to expect from the Alliance. It will be, we're sort of doing our best, figuring things out as we go. Thank you again for joining us today. Thank you for listening, and let the service begin.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Stephanie May, and my pronouns are she, her. As we won't have spoken joys and sorrows at the end of the service because of the annual meeting, I just want to start by expressing my deep, deep gratitude for how this community rallied together yesterday to properly honor the life of Ken Sawyer. And so many of us are back again today to do yet another service and even more. So thank you for everything everyone did, including just showing up to be present. If you missed the service, it is on our YouTube channel. And today our service will be about two things. The fourth part of our mission statement, to make a better world, and also our monthly theme of beauty. And they actually go together really well. So our opening words come from Reverend Karen Johnston, a friend of mine. What to do with beauty, or joy for that matter, in the midst of tragedy, of violence, of cruelty? What do we do with the living? Give each their due. Do not lose ourselves in any of it, but find ourselves anew. Where there is beauty, amplify it. Where beauty is hidden, reveal it. Where beauty is ruined, restore it. Where beauty is absent, create it. This will be our gift to an aching world. I now invite the Cullen family to come forward to lead us in saying our covenant and lighting our chalice.
Good morning. Please join us as we say together, with open minds and loving hearts, we gather to search for meaning, to care for one another, and to work together for a better world.
And if our theme is beauty, of course our opening hymn has to be For Beauty of the Earth. Hymn number 21, please rise in body or in spirit. Please be seated, unless you're coming forward. And I do invite those who are joining today. This is our new member ceremony, so I invite you to come forward, the Cullens and Sue. Okay. Actually, you guys, we have to pass the mic. That's okay. There you go. I will start down here. Okay. I always have to remember how do we do this again? So this is our new member ceremony, and we make this public because this is a public relationship. This is a relationship between each of us as a congregation, and the parish committee members are here because this is about joining into a covenant with each other. And so thank you for being part of this, all of you, including you little ones, and the kids, you have a part in this too, so pay attention. There's an insert in your order of service that has the words for the new member ceremony. Your words are really simple. It's just, I will. So no paper needed. And then why don't we just quickly have you introduce yourselves, if you can.
Absolutely. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Betsy Cullen, and these are my children, Fiona, Isabel, and Bridget. And my husband, Chris, is equally committed to this step we're taking as a family, but is unfortunately unable to be with us today. Thank you all.
Yes, I'm Sue Scammell. I'm a long-term member of the Unitarian Church and have just come from Brewster in Cape Cod, where I was a member of the Unitarian Church there for 30 years.
Welcome. Okay, and here we go, PC co-chairs.
Okay, I will unmask as I tested negative this morning. I'm Deb Stabiter, I'm one of the co-chairs. And we at First Parish in Wayland welcome you as new members of our community this morning. You come with your own stories, gifts, and ideas to share. Some of you have recently found us, and others have chosen to commit to First Parish in a new way.
I'm Annie Stubbs, the other co-chair of the PC, and I'm not going to unmask because I didn't have a test when I... We do not have a creed of beliefs you must affirm, but ask that you engage in this community with an open mind and loving heart. We welcome you all and invite you to join with us in nurturing and sustaining a community committed to searching for meaning, caring for one another, and working together to make a better world.
By signing our membership book, you affirm that you are in sympathy with the spirit and purpose of First Parish and seriously desire to join this congregation. I love that phrase, it's from the bylaws. Joining First Parish as a member means being part of this gathered congregation, speaking out on the future of this congregation, offering and receiving the gifts of this gathering, supporting others, and being supported in return. If you will join us in this mission and work, please say, I will.
I'm going to mask. I tested. Okay, I do this every year, and I'm going to remind the kids at the end, this is your part, and this is one of the only times that you can be really loud in the sanctuary. So just remember that. Some of our new members also bring their children into our community. I ask all the children of the congregation to unmute yourselves if you're on Zoom and to call out if you're here. Please continue to welcome and come to these children into your play, your growing, your learning, and your love. If you will do this, please say loud and clear, we will. Oh my goodness. Let's try that one more time, because I know you all have louder voices than that was. You all, remember I said you could be really loud in the sanctuary today? So really big voices. You guys ready? Say, we will. We will. Much better. Thank you. Well done.
The strength of any congregation emerges from the members and friends of all ages that make up the community. Let all who wish respond and welcome to these new members by saying with me the words in the order of service and the chat. We receive you with open hands and hearts. As you join us, we once again renew our own commitment to this religious community. We are proud and happy to have you among us. So you can unmute. Welcome. Welcome.
And here's the official part. You sign the book. Here, right behind you. And Kate has a plant for each of you, including one for Chris. And the reason we give you a plant instead of flowers is because it's not a one and done kind of thing. And so we give you a plant, and we try to give you a plant that's fairly easy to maintain. To symbolize, because some of us, when we signed the book, killed our plant that year, that to symbolize a sense of an ongoing nurturing relationship. Thank you. And
We'll have them sign it some Sunday. It's been in office. Welcome.
And one more big welcome for everybody. Well, and now we're going to invite our kids to leave for their Sikh programming and sing. We'll all sing them out. Our next hymn settles us back down. And in the UU World, the UU magazine, sometimes they do like a March Madness joke of what are the most popular things among Unitarian Universalists. And one of them was this song, Spirit of Life, which is widely sung in a lot of congregations. And we realized we hadn't sung it in a long time. So I invite you to stay seated and to just lean into this often, perhaps familiar, perhaps new tune and its lovely lyrics as we prepare for a time of prayer and meditation.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Lee. I'm the ministerial intern, and my pronouns are she or they. Let's take a deep breath. In and out. Another deep breath. And out. Spirit of life, it sometimes feels like this world is full of loss. We recently reached the grim milestone of over 1 million lives lost to COVID in the US. And yet it feels like almost no one noticed. That in our rush to return to some type of normalcy, we are quick to forget about the people, particularly from vulnerable populations, who lost their lives. We are also thinking today of those we lost to the terrible hate crime in Buffalo. We worry again that the world will simply move on and that this will go down as yet another mass killing that we barely remember. That this will be yet another moment of racial violence in this country that many people will just look away from. But we will not forget. We will hold close the memory of those we have lost to COVID and also to racial violence. And we will try to find ways to honor them. And the memory of what we've lost will remain with us. Their legacies will endure. Let us take a few moments to sit in stillness with the grief and with our loss and just be present to it. And to remember that silence is often just the beginning. As the great Reverend Howard Thurman once said, when the Spirit moves into depths of the region of the great silence, where world weariness is washed away and blurred vision is once again prepared for the focus of the long view.
I am Kathy Schmidt. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a lay minister of this congregation. This is a time in our service that we set aside to acknowledge the joys and sorrows that we all hold. As I light this first candle, I wish to acknowledge the sorrows we hold. We are worried about the shortage of infant formula in this country. We are saddened by the rise in hate crimes in this country, exacerbated by easy access to weaponry. We mourn the victims of the Taiwanese Presbyterian Church in California and of the Buffalo grocery store shootings just this past week. As I light the second candle, I would like to name the joys that we hold. We celebrate the life of Ken Sawyer and are grateful for the impact he has had on so many of us. And in the category of silver linings, we are thankful that there has been a rise in the population of one-horned rhinos. Who knew? This has been attributed to the fact that COVID resulted in fewer visits to the rhino habitat, allowing them to flourish in peace.
Thank you, Kathy. You'll hear later in the annual meeting, but much of what First Parish does, such as the staff that plans the worship services, building maintenance, the technology that keeps us all connected, depends on your kind and thoughtful donations. If you are online, you can look in your order of service for ways that you can donate, and if you're here in person, we will gratefully receive the offering. Thank you again for your support of First Parish.
Fabulous to have you guys singing again. And you've been working hard these last few days. Well, as you may know, yesterday was a big day here at First Parish. And as it turns out, preparing for both Ken's memorial service and then turning around and trying to write a sermon for today turned out to be a lot. So with the encouragement from some folks to consider reusing something I've written before to lighten my load, I'm going to do something different today. Firstly, the reading on Charles Einstein's books, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, will have to wait for another time. But wow, what a great title, right? Instead, I want to weave together fragments of a chapter from my doctoral dissertation with reflections on living out our mission as a religious community to make a better world. What does better mean? What images come to mind? What does better look like on our streets or in our workplaces or in our wild places? Today, I want to suggest that better and more beautiful are linked. Of course, asking what is beautiful does not exactly clarify matters very much if you consider the adage that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Even so, what we consider to be beautiful does make a difference. As the Reverend Sean Parker Dennison says, what we believe is beautiful, we will not wantonly destroy. And so I ask, what do you consider to be beautiful? What does your idea of a better, more beautiful world look like? In the most general terms, my dissertation analyzes the ideas and language of home in feminist and Christian discourses. In chapter 4, I examine the discourses around the idea of heaven as home. When we use language to depict images of our ideal places, places like heaven, we are also conveying our highest aspirations, our ideals and values for how the world should be, the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. There are multiple examples of theologians, ethicists, and preachers using the rhetoric of a heavenly home to set forth an ethical dream for a better world. One example comes from Martin Luther King's speech during the March on Washington in 1963. Author Alice Walker recounts portions of King's speech in a 1973 essay entitled "Choosing to Stay at Home," 10 years after the March on Washington. She writes, "And when he spoke of letting freedom ring across the green hills of Alabama and the red hills of Georgia, I saw again what he was uniquely able to make me see, that I in fact had a claim to the land of my birth. Those red hills of Georgia were mine, and nobody was going to force me away from them until I myself was good and ready to go." Analyzing this passage, I wrote, King's prophetic dream of a reconfigured socio-material landscape allows Walker to reorient her connection to the land of my birth. Recognizing her claim to this land enables Walker to question the inability of Walker and her Southern sisters and brothers to stay home. Walker laments the lack of jobs, money, power, and respect that had driven so many north, including her own summer job in Boston. Walker longs for a world in which she is not forced to leave her home with the countryside that includes the house where her mother was born, the old pine tree where her father rested on his way to school, or the land that generations of her ancestors worked and briefly owned. In considering the passing of time, Walker can point to changes in the social and material landscape that had granted increased accessibility to public spaces for Blacks. The Black teens swimming in the Motel pool, the absence of whites-only signs. And yet, Walker describes how brutal and soul-draining memories of exclusion and violence haunt her enjoyment of this landscape. I won't read any more direct quotes from the dissertation. That was actually the most accessible. Walker's depiction of her home shows how places can both hold powerful connections and how places can change. She shows how social action can take root and be manifested within particular places and spaces that we inhabit and feel connected to. The pools we swim in, the pine trees we walk by, the memories of family that have been in these places. For Walker, her vision of a better world is one where she can choose to stay in her particular home without being forced to leave by dynamics of racial and economic injustice or threats of violence. The better, more beautiful world is freely choosing whether to stay upon land where she felt grounded. The linkages between a better, more beautiful world are also evident in the work of feminist Christian ethicist Bev Harrison. In her inaugural address as the first woman president of the Society of Christian Ethics, Harrison conveys an ethical vision driven by a sense of what the world could become. Discussing the roles of metaphor and images in ethics, Harrison writes, They shape our sense of what sort of community would be beautiful to behold. Our images of justice provide intimations, imaginative envisagements of what constitutes the good of the whole society. So while theological notions of justice specify neither the range of concrete goods and values for which we ought to strive in the immediate future, nor principles of sufficient specificity to adjudicate conflicts of interest, they do ground our sense of purpose and order our direction as moral agents and communities. They give some clues for prioritizing our principles and identifying our concrete goals. In other words, our images and metaphors for the communities we would find beautiful provide fuel for our imagination. Our dreams of justice may not spell out policy goals and legislative agendas, but they give us a sense of purpose and point to a direction of what a better world looks like. Our imagined possibilities provide clues that can order our priorities and help define just what our concrete next steps might be. Making a better world might just begin by imagining what that world looks like, by considering what would be beautiful to behold. A third example of the power of images of beauty to shape ethics is found in the work of womanist ethicist Emilie Townes. By incorporating poetry as well as finely crafted prose into her ethical texts, an aesthetic vision of justice plays a key role in her work. For example, in her 2001 book, Breaking the Fine Rein of Death, the concluding chapter begins and ends with poetry. In her opening poem, Townes discusses her efforts as a girl to, quote, conjure up heaven, which she primarily describes in terms of domestic images of her favorite foods. Quote, I realize now I was associating heaven with the way my grandmama's house smelled on Saturday night and Sunday. Quote, heaven takes imaginative shape from her lived experiences of domestic bliss at her grandmother's house. And yet Townes concludes her poem with a lament for the search for paradise among the empty promises of the world of theme parks. Sometimes the places we are told will provide happiness turn out to be purveyors of false hope. We may not find what we are looking for in theme parks or other well-crafted images of delight peddled as promises of salvation for our aching spirits. Nonetheless, Townes declares, I frankly have renewed my search for paradise. However, her search for paradise, her heavenly home of idealized living, has shifted to a new vision. She writes, this paradise is not collapsed solely into a terrifying apocalypse howling in the end of human history. It is connected to an understanding of humanity, our value systems, and our world. Therefore, this paradise I seek is largely focused on this life, for it's intimately linked to a Hebraic focus on a good and long life as the goal for each person. The salvific dimensions of this paradise is not otherworldly. Salvation here embraces all of humanity, for it is our relationship, our kinship and relationship with God and one another. Do you agree with Townes? Where do you imagine salvation or the better world lies? In another otherworldly time and place, or here now within this world? When so much is going wrong in the world, it can be hard to hold on to images of a better world. On this day of record heat, our sweat reminds us of climate change. Nor do we forget that just a week ago we gathered as the news of a racist shooting in Buffalo emerged. And we continue to consider the fallout from the Supreme Court's leak and the threat to reproductive justice and possibly more. In the face of such concrete problems, why bother with our imaginative envisagements of a better world? Why? Because these images of a better, more beautiful world help to inspire and direct our ethical action. What if we surrendered our lawns to become backyard parks of native plants for pollinators? What if we built a power grid based on renewables that cleared the smog and made images of oil-soaked birds a relic of the past? What if people did not have to immigrate between or within nations in search of economic opportunity or in order to more safely live out their racial, ethnic, gender, or sexual identity? What does your more beautiful world look like? When we imagine our more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible, then perhaps we might sustain our action to preserve and fight for this possible, precious world. In this way, beauty can function to fuel, to counter the weariness of a tiring, hard fight. I wonder what might happen if we respond to the challenges of injustice and ugliness with the question, where is the beauty here? Where is the possibility for a more beautiful world? The path of answering these questions and living into the answers may be neither simple nor short. However, it may still be worth the journey if we are acting to preserve what we find to be beautiful. These images, these metaphors, these lived experiences of beauty are powerful ethical motivators in our work for a better world. So let us dream, and let us share our dreams for this particular place, for our beloved, beautiful, shared world. So may it be. Amen. Our closing hymn is, actually don't look at the number. The place you want to look, unless you're really good at reading music, just the insert that had the new member ceremony on it has the lyrics for this next song on the back. It's far easier to listen to the choir and follow those lyrics than to read the hymnal unless you know what a repeat is in music. And I will say there's one little false direction where there's one repeat, where did it go? Where it says, this is life, repeat. So is life, repeat. Ignore that one, just follow the choir. Okay, we're gonna do it. It's a fabulous song. Please rise in body or in spirit.
So
And so is life when we don't quite get it right. It's a great song, though, isn't it? And once again, I stand back here because part of what our mission is to walk out these doors, or for those of you who are online, to be beyond these walls, and to bring our faith, our values into our living. So we stand here and say, now I'm going to go to the covenant. Oh, I'm telling you, I'm tired. Help me out. You all know, some of you know this. With open minds and loving hearts, we gathered. No, that's the covenant. What's my benediction? Sustained, thank you. Different pile in the brain. Sustained by our connections and all that is holy. Let us go and be beyond these walls, bringing more light and life, love and justice to our shared world. Amen. And don't leave, because we're going to have the annual meeting just after this wonderful bit of music.